All right, hi everybody. Welcome back to our So Far So Good at Home version. This is probably tuning in with us now. If you're watching from Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, you're live with us. And once again, my name is Melvin Lim, co-founder of PropertyLimBrothers. I have George with me today. Hi, George.
Hi everyone, George here. Nice to meet you guys.
All right. How's things going for you, George?
Yeah, I think right now it is definitely a difficult time for all of us, working from home. But I think this is also a very good chance for all of us, to reorganize ourselves and plan the next phase forward, so that once the circuit breaker is over, which I believe a lot of business owners and a lot of people are waiting for this period to be over, and then we can't wait to get back into the market and continue to serve our clients and to continuously adding value to all of them. Yep.
All right. Yeah, so George has joined the PLB team early this year, right? And I invited him to come aboard with us today. We have a special guest, and if you're first time tuning in with us at So Far So Good Live, what we do is that we bring on board business owners, bring on board industry experts, and then we chat with them about their business, about their point of views, as well as to talk about property and stuff like that, right? So, George, you want to talk a little about our guest today?
Yeah, sure. So, Pei Lin, she's actually the founder of SAIL Playhouse. So, I think later on, probably you can get her to share a bit more about SAIL Playhouse. But I think in a nutshell, SAIL Playhouse is actually a preschool that offers an inclusive school for everyone. So I think later on we'll get her to share. And yep. So I think while Melvin is prepping his tools to get ready for the show, I think if anyone have any questions, to ask Pei Lin and even Melvin and myself, I think feel free to drop a message in a Q&A session later. And a little bit more of background for Pei Lin. So Pei Lin SAIL Playhouse is actually situated at Gambas. So it is a 3-story playhouse. So the playhouse is huge. I think not very often we see a playhouse to be located in a 3-story inclusive area. I think within the compound they have a lot of areas. Well, I'm not too sure. I'm not the owner, so later on Pei Lin will share more with everyone. And I think today's session is also to give everyone a heads up on what are kind of blind spots to observe as a new business owner, because I think if you're all new, there's a lot of things that we don't know what to look out for, and there's a lot of blind spots. So I think it'll be good for someone that has already gone through the path to share with everyone.
Yeah, indeed. I think business owners are the best people to chat with, because every business owner needs typically a place to operate. I mean, if you're running a more brick and mortar kind of business, you need to definitely rent a place, or you need to own a place. And all right, I think why don't we bring our guests to the show?
Sure.
Hello, hi, Pei Lin.
Hello, Pei Lin.
Raj.
Hi, how are you today?
Hi, good.
All right, how's everything at home since the circuit breaker?
So far, so good. For us, I think we are quite lucky. We are considered essential business, so haven't been hit by it that much. We are still operating, and we still go about our work, like our daily work as usual.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right.
We still do
has
our online.
Right. Has
Sorry?
things gotten more busy for you?
Actually, no. I'm kind of enjoying like taking the step back. We are doing some planning, staff training, all that as well.
I see. All right. And I believe your playhouse also have to observe safe distancing measures and stuff like that.
Yeah, we do.
Right.
So we are preparing for a school reopening soon.
Okay. And how does the new so-called 2nd June phase take into play for your center?
There's a phase reopening, so class by class they actually open, and then we will slowly take measures to see whether like opening will cause any like disruptions or yeah. So I think the government is also trying to control things. So we are bringing things back bit by bit.
Okay. All right. So just now we have introduced you a little bit to our guests.
Yeah.
And Pei Lin actually runs SAIL Playhouse for the past 2 years. Am I right?
Yes.
Right. Why don't you give our audience a little bit of a heads up of what you do and
Okay,
stuff like
so
that.
I actually run SAIL Playhouse. So it's an inclusive preschool, meaning that we take in children from age 18 months to 6 years old. And these children, some of them might have additional needs. So it could be like autism, Down syndrome, or developmental delay. And then, but majority of the children are typically developing. So and then as the only active business owner, so I actually run the operations as well as the business aspect as well.
Right. So you founded this in 2018.
Yes, correct.
Right? And before that, what were you doing?
I've always been in the early childhood industry. So because my passion is in working with young children. And then I also worked in early intervention as well. And then I also shortly got out of the industry for a while. So I actually went to the ministry to do some work in there.
Oh, was it teaching?
No, so I actually worked in Ministry for Social and Family Development. Yeah, so I wanted to see a bit more behind the policies that were going into like your preschools and like family development and all that.
Right. And I was reading a bit about the inclusive education model for preschool and kindergartens. And and I saw something like it only came into play in 2017, right?
Yes, correct. So actually, the first one was kindergarten. So they actually kick-started, and I think that was when we Singapore kind of started to realize that this could be possible in Singapore. But then I think still there are quite a bit of challenges. So in Singapore context, we are very academically driven. So naturally, like people get worried when we talk about putting children with additional needs together with the typically developing children. We worry like whether it will impact their learning, and whether like we kind of don't want to rock the boat. So like if things are going well now, we try not to introduce things that will rock the boat and potentially cause them to not be ready for primary school in that sense.
Right. And which means are you the second center to open with the inclusive model?
I would say either the second or the third. So I do know there are like one or two other schools that are inclusive. Yeah, but then there are other schools that like are kind of like they don't set out to be inclusive, but they are quite welcoming of these children as well. So I won't say like the only few, but then I think definitely one of the first few.
I see. So how different is your setup, like running the inclusive model, and how do you train your guys? How do you train your teachers?
Okay, I think first and foremost would be the curriculum as well as the environment. It definitely we have a lot more advantage in that sense. So I think you're aware our space is quite huge. So that will allow us to be able to create a lot of areas that promote like play and exploration, as well as meeting some of the needs. Like some of the children, they require a lot of space to move around. Some of them, like in a claustrophobic area, they might act out. So I think having that leisure of space, that really helps. And we have a lot of different features. So we actually have like gym room, we have places like we have a loft dramatic play area. We also have like things like sensory play, water play, all that in our school. So in terms of that, I think it can be quite different for other schools. Like some of the schools, especially if they are like the like void below void deck kind of preschools, that might make it difficult for them to actually replicate such a setting. So the other part of it will be in terms of curriculum. Definitely we do have to make it a lot more like concrete. So we have to think of different ideas to engage the children who naturally like they're not going to sit down and listen to you. So we have to think of interesting ways to engage them and make learning more fun for them. So yeah, so these are just the things that we try to do a bit more, just to include the children with additional needs.
Right.
Yeah, so in terms of our staff, I would say it's ongoing training and a lot of support for them. A lot of them are like not very confident to teach children with additional needs. I think because of the lack of experience as well. So we do have ongoing training, and we also have like professionals like our interventionists, our therapists who actually go in the school and they actually teach and support our teachers as well.
Right. So was it because you first planned to run the inclusive education model, which is why you were looking for a huge space?
I would say that is not the only. I mean, the space, we definitely needed more space because of we intended for even children with physical disabilities. So those on the children wheelchairs, the walkers, to be able to access different areas. But I would say the first criteria that made it so difficult to find a place was because we really, really wanted a place with outdoor area. And in Singapore, like the places with outdoor area are like bungalows and basically your bungalows, your landed bungalows. So to find a place that was big enough and then had the outdoor space, that was already a very limited pool of places
Choices,
that we could, very limited choices. And then I think the other thing is when it comes to landed bungalows, it's not as easy So because there's for childcare, we actually have to have this like a URA approval to use that space as a childcare unit. So not all bungalows can be converted into childcare. So I think it depends on so it depends on how many childcares there are in that area, and then whether or not there can be one more. I think it's based on demand as well. So the other thing is also for bungalow units, because for a space to be big enough, it actually has to be multi-level. And when it's multi-level, you have things like staircase, which is not accessible as well. So, and if you are actually renting a single-story bungalow, that's very not worth
Limited.
it for because of the space. And for a childcare, the space is very important, because that determines what is your capacity and whether or not you are going to make money from the business. So
What
so
is
it's
the
quite
ratio
limited.
now? Like in terms of the square footage versus the amount of capacity that you can host your kids.
Okay, so for childcare, we actually have one child has to have at least I think 3 meter squares of space. So they actually calculate based on that. So like an area of about maybe 10,000 square feet, we can take in about 150 to 170 kids.
Right. Right. So now how many kids do you have?
We actually have close to about 60 plus enrolled. So we actually, but for us, because we converted a lot of the spaces to our play areas as well, so we don't intend to take in the full capacity. So for us, probably about 100 to 120, that's our target.
Right. Right.
So that is actually to provide more quality like environment to the kids rather than
Yes.
having a lot of kids. Right?
Yes, correct. So for us, we actually have a lower child to teacher ratio. We don't go beyond 1 teacher to 9 children in our center. So for a typical childcare, especially for older kids, they might go up to 1 to 20 or 1 to 25. Yeah, so for us, it's definitely much lower.
I see.
Right. So during this just out of curiosity, during this past since the start of the circuit breaker, right? Then do parents still bring their kids to your play school? Is it still running at full capacity or?
No, so we only have a few kids who come in for limited services. So these are the parents who are working in essential services, and they actually have to go to work every day.
Right. So it's a smaller pool and
yes.
Right. And maybe we want to talk a little bit about, like, when you first started to shortlist and hunt for the space as a business owner. Is this your first time running a business?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Right. And okay, before I talk about that, so what made you wanted to come out to start your own business? What's your driving force?
Okay, I think for me there were 2 main drivers. So I think the first thing is because I'm very passionate in inclusive education. So actually, the whole concept behind the school is actually to find how to make this work in Singapore. So we wanted to be able to develop like a concept and a setting where inclusive education can happen, and at the same time not compromise the Singapore education. So the other aspect of it is I think that, like, for my personality, I'm not very suited to be an employee. I think for me is, if I think of something, I want to be able to implement, and I don't like that you going through the different layers, and especially if you are working in like a corporate environment, you kind of have to depend on the vision of your company and the boss. So it's not exactly like you can do what you want and you can actually make the changes that you want. So
Right.
so I think it just made sense that.
Do you have a name for this type of personality?
Not really. I don't consider myself as an entrepreneur. I would say it's just like, quite fortunately, I have this opportunity to be able to open one, and then at the same time, like, I was kind of at some point where I knew that working with kids was my passion, because before that I had this period where like, when you work in this industry for a while, you kind of get jaded. So I actually wanted to step out for a while to see, like, is working with kids all I can do. And then that's when I actually went into the ministry, and then I could really feel that draining, like, like you really this is not for you kind of feeling.
Right.
And then because some aspects of my job there actually dealt with working with kids with additional needs as well, not directly, but with the schools and all that. And then that's where I felt wow, like there was energy when I was talking about this thing and when I'm talking to those people. So that's where I kind of decided that, yeah, this is where I'm going to be for like maybe the rest of my life. Yeah, so that's where I decided to actually invest in a business that was to do with this.
Right.
I see.
How about
So that's
George?
actually quite on the contrary, like when there are teachers or therapists that handle that are having kids with special needs. I think most of them the comment is like, oh, it's very draining. But I think on the other end for yours, it's like you feel more energy.
Yeah, I kind of like them. Like it makes a difference. I think for them, you really see your efforts help them to improve. Whereas I think for typical kids, like even especially when I have my own daughter, you kind of realize that whether or not you are there, they still will learn, and like a teacher in school can help them to learn. So and even TV even like they watch Peppa Pig or something, they do learn something. So it's very different. Like you don't see the fruit of your labor as obviously as when you work with kids with additional needs lah.
I see.
Right, George, I want to hear from you, George.
Yeah.
Why do you want to come into the real estate industry?
Right. I
Do
think
you have that kind of personality as well?
yeah, that's a very good question. So I think there
Do,
was
do,
a
do
very
you use
long
the
story. Sorry.
we call this the deathbed theory? Do you use the
Okay.
deathbed theory? Like when I was deciding whether to come out or not, I would imagine myself lying on the deathbed. I'm going to die in the next 5 minutes. Then I will ask myself, what have I regretted not doing? Do you use that, George?
No, I think more importantly is also because for people that don't know, Melvin is actually my brother-in-law. So I've seen
Oh my
him like
goodness, why did you tell this on national TV? No, it's not. It's not national
is it meant
TV.
to be a
Okay, yeah,
secret?
yeah.
So I just seen him like hustle lah. So yeah, I think I kind of like the vision that he's setting up because I think in this industry there's still a lot of things that needs to be done, to make it like good and for clients to actually like enjoy this entire property journey. So to be like very transparent and conduct business with integrity is something that it's like a fine line. So I think the calling is that I believe that there's a lot more value that we can add to clients and to this industry that makes it very fulfilling. I think I would call this like my ikigai lah. Once I enter into this industry, it's like every day is not a Monday. Kind of thing.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, I read the ikigai thingy about a
yeah.
couple of months back. Yeah, it's finding your ikigai. Yeah, right.
Correct.
Great. Then how about Pei Lin? So when you first started 2 years back as a new business owner, what was the main challenge, or what were the top two challenge that you face at the very initial phase?
I think it's the whole like learning about this business aspect. Even till now, like I think the struggle between like you run your operations versus you are running a business, I think it's quite different. So yeah, so there are a lot of things that will shock you about the whole like business. And I think the initial period, I think a lot of entrepreneurs know like it's a very lonely journey, and people who have never run it, they kind of like cannot share that burden together with you. So like the initial, like the anxiety, the fears of when you first start your business, and when is like whether it will succeed or not. I think that is something that like emotionally that was quite hard for me. And I would say like the rest of the things to me is just okay, you learn and you do. But that emotional aspect and the stress from all that was really hard for me lah. And even like when you have staff, like your people who are working under you, it's kind of not the thing that you're going to share with them, right? Like I don't know whether my business will make it or not. Yeah, you kind of will freak them out. So yeah, so having to stay strong, like for the rest of the people around you and your family, or that was also something that was quite challenging for me.
Right. So were there any co-owners, or you are the singular owner?
No, so I do have shareholders, but yeah, they are sleeping partners. So I do run the whole thing myself lah. So even more on the lonely journey. But I think that, I mean, I do appreciate the part that I kind of can make the decisions and I can have that freedom to do things and not have someone to argue with. But at the same time, like, it's also missing that part that, okay, someone to bounce off ideas with. So yeah, but I think now it's much better because like I've managed to build up a team, and yeah, there are some things that I can bounce off ideas from, and there are people giving me input. So yeah, definitely in a much better place lah compared to like when I first started it.
Okay, so share with us your journey. Just imagine for our audience purpose, right? Like when you're planning to rent this place, you rented this place, right? So what do you do? I mean, was it like a step by step, or is it concurrently? Do you come up with your curriculum first? Because I understand you use this Howard Gardner's theory curriculum, right? And do you come up with the curriculum first, and do you start employing your teachers first? And what were your steps, and what led you to rent this place eventually?
I think it was somewhat concurrent. Like I spent about a year doing the whole, like, the curriculum and the planning and everything, and then renting was kind of, because you kind of have to wait to find a good unit. So yeah, so it was kind of like concurrently lah. I was like searching while I was preparing. Yeah, so yeah, and I think for finding this unit is kind of like quite coincidental lah, because when I was looking for a location, I happened to just move house. So I actually moved to the north of Singapore, and just nice, like this industrial area, it just opened up. So they were actually renting out spaces, and this unit that I rented is quite special because it was actually built as a childcare unit. So
Okay.
I think it's, if I'm not wrong, it's the first one ever to be built as a childcare unit.
Is
Yeah,
it
so
standalone?
you mean the unit or?
Yeah, is it like a standalone in as part of a building?
Yes, so it's actually like a series of like terrace units. So they are individual 3-story units, like side by
Right.
side. You know, you imagine a terrace house, but it's
Right.
in the industrial area. And then
Right.
this particular unit was built as a childcare, so it actually had all the URA approvals in place already. And then they even built an outdoor area for it, like with a playground and everything. So it was really
Right.
built as a childcare. Yeah, and then yeah, so it was quite coincidental that when I was almost ready to start, and then this unit came up. So yeah, and then like I went to see and like that place, and I think it just fits all the criteria that I had, other than the space was very big. Yeah, so we actually had to bid for that place, because I mean it was built as a childcare unit, so there are other people who wanted that space as well. And because of the capacity that you could actually take in for that unit, I think it's quite popular as well. So we had to bid for it, and yeah, and then when we managed to get it and sign, then that's where we, like, I just had to, like, it just rolled on lah. I just had to settle
Right.
everything, like the tenancy agreement and then the renovations and everything, yeah, to get it ready to start up.
Right. So like at hindsight, right, looking back 2 years, I mean backwards. So when you first realized that you got you got the tender, right, you're awarded the tender, then what were some of the things that you were thinking of as a tenant, as a commercial tenant?
I would say I mean, in terms of like how to actually go about it, at that point it was quite blank lah, in that sense. So I think, like, for myself, like my agent is actually like quite a close friend, and I think quite luckily she also had experience with actually like renting and setting up of a preschool lah. So she was able to share with me some of the things that I had to look out for and all that. Yeah, so not, like, I would say quite fortunately that I had her when I was looking out for a unit. And then
Right.
she also helped me to negotiate some of the things that were important, because I when she actually uh, did for the previous like her, what do you call it, client, is it? Yeah, so when she did,
Yeah.
then she actually, yeah, so she actually already had some of the like mistakes lah. Yeah, so she actually learned from that, and she helped me in that sense. So I think quite fortunately it went out quite smoothly. Yeah,
Okay.
and then yeah, I think also in terms of the bidding, also we were quite lucky that we managed to get it lah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
if we didn't get that unit, I think we would have gone on a hunt for quite a while as well, because it's really quite hard to find a unit that fits that criteria.
Right.
So you mentioned just now earlier that there are certain things that your agent have like advised you, kind of blind spot. So maybe you can share with the audience like what are kind of things that that you should look out for.
Okay, I would say that like you really have to understand in terms of operations what your business actually needs, because like some of the things, like if you want to renovate or you want to make like create certain things in the unit, not everything can be done. So like you have to get your agent or to find out a bit more on the structural the structure of the building, and like whether or not you can put in certain things and what before you rent it. Yeah, and then there are certain requirements like according to the business lah. So for us, childcare, we do have quite a strict requirements on certain things. So like if the like your estate agent is able to advise you like whether or not these things can be done in that place that you're renting, then that will be quite helpful lah. They can help you to negotiate like, in order to operate this business, my client needs this, so can this be done or not? Yeah, so that's very
Right.
helpful.
Right. So what were some of the blind spots that you realize as a business owner renting an industrial space? Like, what are some of the key blind spots that you have learned along the way?
I think one thing is definitely I didn't realize that for industrial units, right? Like the especially like when you rent like from a industrial park that just opened. So basically it's a bare unit lah. So I didn't realize that there's so many pre-work that you have to do before you do your renovation, like your actual renovations. Yeah. So there are things like the fire
Electrical and
sprinklers,
stuff.
yeah, electrical works, the aircon, all these, and the cost of that is crazy. Yeah, so
Humongous.
yeah,
Right.
and when you rent from a commercial building that is like an industrial area, usually it's quite high ceiling. So for us, I think it's almost like 5-6 meters or something. Yeah, so it's very, very, very high. So so when you rent such a place, right, you need to factor in this in your budget. Yeah, so you cannot just see the rent cost, but you have to see like the pre-works as well, and it can go up to maybe like 100 or tens to 100K just to do that bit. And if you want to bring down the ceiling, which it will look
Do you
more
do that?
no, I only did that for the essential parts lah, but not the
Okay.
entire space. Yeah, but if
Okay.
you want to bring it down, that would set back another few tens of Ks lah, because the sprinkler works was pre-done. So if you want to actually change it or bring it down for the lowered ceiling, then that will that would
Another
be
cost.
additional cost as well. Yeah. So when you are looking out for like you're not taking over a unit, but you are getting a bare unit, you have to factor in all these costs. And I think as a new business owner, like especially if you haven't done such a large scale renovation, like you only do like your house renovation kind of thing, you wouldn't know the actual cost of such things. Like because
Yeah.
high ceiling, they actually need specific equipment, they need certain machinery and all that. And to bring that in, that is cost as well. And they need special people who can operate that. Yeah, so all these are costs that you might not be aware of when you first rent the unit.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing with us like roughly what is the range that you spend on the initial works plus renovation and stuff? How long did it take?
The whole renovation, renovation took about I think 2 months plus, about 2 months plus. So, yeah, the other thing that I didn't know was that because this is like an industrial park, so like their sprinkler works and their like some of the electrical panels and all that, those are done by a specific contractor. And then if you want to do any changes to it, you actually have to get back their contractor because of the warranty and everything. So yeah, and then they actually don't allow you to do like put certain parts or do certain things to it lah, like those things that belong to the initial the building. So
Yeah.
if you want to do renovations for that, you actually have to get their contractor to do it. and then you also have to send in like the drawings and to get them approved and everything. So all these will be during the time that your fitting up period is. So if let's say you have 6 weeks or 8 weeks, you have to factor in all this timing into that. So if they delay for 2 weeks, you cannot begin your renovations until all those are done. Yeah, and then you have to check everything, because once you do renovation, you actually touch things, right? So when you touch things, then then like the if anything happens, then they are non-liable in that sense. So if you want to do any changes or anything, you have to get that contractor to do. Yeah, so that I think that's one of the reasons why my renovation took so long. There was some like difficulty with the sprinkler works as well.
So they went into the 6-figure zone, like for your reno?
Oh, definitely. Six figure is 100 over 1,000. Yeah, definitely. If I think renovation of such a scale, like 10,000 square feet, definitely it will be few hundred of Ks lah.
Right. And but I believe you got a longer lease, in the sense.
Yeah, we got a longer. You mean the fitting out period, right?
As in your entire tenancy period, you got a longer lease running.
3 years plus 3 years. Is that is that considered long? Yeah, I
That's kind of long.
yeah. So
Right.
that's quite okay.
So I think if you are to like thinking of setting up another center, would you then consider getting a new bare place, or would it be better for you to get a place that's already been fitted and then you just do some simple modifications? Like what's your
So will you do this all over again, like for your second center?
I think, I thought about that. Definitely not such a large scale. I think one thing that new business owners, especially those like, you have a startup company or like entirely new business, you might not realize that actually needs maintenance. So, when your space is big, right, you actually have to. And things for like, I think when contractors do work for residential and commercial area, it's quite different. I'm not too sure, but I think in terms of the materials and everything, there is a slight difference. So within 1 year plus, you can start, and plus the way that you run your business, definitely there's more usage compared to at home.
Right.
So things start falling apart, and wear and tear happens like within 1 year plus. So if your space is big, a lot of things need to be maintained. And so definitely I think if I were to set up another center, it would not be such a big scale, just so that I can manage all these things because it eats into your profit as well, all these things. So whatever that you maintain, and especially you have kids using this, like it kind of like makes it very difficult to maintain such a big space.
And how many people do you have in your team now?
My team, we have, including me, we have 15 staff.
Right. And like, as a new business owner, how do you manage a team of this size? Like, what kind of systems do you use, and what kind of methodology do you use as a business owner?
I would say hire the right people. For me, things got better when I got better people in that sense. And then the other thing is, as in every business book will tell you, like your communication with your team. I think that's really important. So like having that shared vision and wanting to do this like together, that's very important. And I think quite fortunately for my school, because we are an inclusive preschool, so for people who actually join the school, most of them kind of signed up for this for this vision. They want the inclusion, and they they have this passion for it. So that makes, like, at least we have like a common ground that we want to work towards. So so that's quite nice for us.
Yeah, so I read a book before that says that sometimes business owners, you get like all stressed up and stuff like that, right? Because you have like your overheads, and then you need to train your people, and then as your team grow bigger, you need to set in place systems, and your HR, your finance, and your stuff like that all start to kick in. So I was reading that the book was saying that if all of us can look at our team and our staff as volunteers. That means we look at them as if they were volunteers, and they are coming in to run the vision with you. Then your perspective will shift. because
Mm.
if you look at it as volunteers, then it's different. Just like example, how like non profit organizations run sometimes. I mean, although some people do get paid and stuff, but if you look at voluntary organizations, it's like they come in because they want to run your shared vision. So yeah, so I mean that book really helped me to change my perspective as well, because if we look at our people as a team and then we run together for a common goal, like what you said, then it really it lightens up the process. It makes it more fun, yeah, and it's less stressful in a sense, right? So like, I mean, just now you mentioned about some trainings that you get for your people, right? Like, are they
Yeah.
external training, or you train them yourself and stuff?
We do both, but more, I would say more internal training, because like we take case studies from actual things that are happening in our center, and then because we do have other professionals as well, so we get them to actually provide their inputs on these things so that people can learn from each other, like, rather than always learning from like a course, or learning from like the so-called like other professional. I think we everybody has quite a bit of strength also in this team. So I feel that there's value in learning from each other as well.
Mm, right. So like, are you planning to open up a second one, or do you have
At
plans
the
in the
moment,
midterm?
at the moment, not so. I would say I'm like we are concentrating a lot more on building our team, and then
Mm,
as well as the curriculum and the program. Like, we want to make sure that it's something that like it's something that will work well. And like I mentioned earlier, like the whole concept of the center is to find out how we can do this in Singapore context. And I think that, like, back and forth, we do still have improvements that we want to make for our program.
mm,
So maybe not that soon. And as well as
mm,
I think there are quite some changes in the whole early childhood industry. So it's still a
right.
bit unpredictable as well. Yeah, but if
What
I
are
do
some of
it
the
probably,
changes?
sorry.
Yeah, what are some of the changes
I
that
think
you mentioned?
there's a lot more like government coming in. There's a lot more funding for like your big players, all that. So it can be quite competitive to be like just a small center. Yeah.
Mm,
So yeah. So for me, I think it's just being very focused on the goal of the center. Yeah. Not so much like to create many uh centers, and then like to make it into a whole like chain of business, but I think, like, for us, we are just very focused on our goal, and like making it a quality center. And then if there's the opportunity next time, then we'll look at expanding it.
right, right.
So just now, I think you mentioned about like, when you're signing a tenancy agreement and you're glad that you have an agent that able to help you. So I think, like, are there any advice to business owner, like what are the kind of clauses that should be in place to protect
Mm,
business owner in terms of
mm,
being able to function your business in
mm.
future. Yeah.
In the tenancy agreement, I think for us, because we actually rented directly from the developer, so I
Mm.
mean they are quite experienced in terms of like doing up a tenancy agreement. I would
Yeah.
say it's quite generic,
Mm,
like basically the clause are everything that you can think of lah. Like, don't, like, you cannot do this, cannot do that. Yeah. So yeah, but then definitely you have to read through very carefully, especially you can read through it together with your agent, and then if you have concerns, like, think about the operations of your business, and whether certain causes might impact it. So I just give an example, like one of the things, because it's a generic like
Generic
very
TA.
generic TA. So you like one of the clauses was you cannot cook inside, and then if you run a childcare business, you cannot not cook, right? Because you have kids
Mm.
to feed. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
then you have to negotiate lah, like, and then they actually, and like some things you would think that, oh, like, not a big deal, but it's better to have it in written lah, in the TA, so that just to protect yourself lah as a business owner. So other things is like I think they also have things like you can have pets and all that. And like sometimes, when you run a childcare, you might want to have something like that. So
Mm.
yeah, then you have to ask like, or what happened if it's certain kind. So they will add in a clause that, like certain things is okay, but certain things are not. Yeah. So these are just some additional clauses that you might one written inside the TA, just so that if someone comes in and say, hey, you cannot do this, it's written in the TA, you cannot, and then you have this other sheet. I think it's like an attachment that says, oh, actually you can with some provisions.
Mm.
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 So how's the negotiation process like? Like, for example, just like you mentioned that you cannot code, but then you want to include that clause inside, right? So was the negotiation process tough, and then was there any like delay back and forth?
Not really. Actually, I did everything through my agent lah. So I just told her that I have all these concerns, and then she was the one who actually negotiated. And I think it's better in that sense because like the agent with experience, they know how to talk to the like your landlord or the developer. So better than you going to bang the door, right? So and then I think it kind of like it's also not as stressful for me lah, because I just have to tell her that, oh, I have all these concerns, and then she actually helps me to resolve it with them.
Right.
So I would say negotiation, like I didn't really have that much difficulty. But then I think some point where after the whole, that means they actually pass on the keys to you and everything. For me, the difficult part was, and I'm not very sure. I only just realized it after I started the business, that there's actually something called the building management. So I think it's a bit like the condo. You have your condo management, and then you have your the owner of the condo, right? So there are certain things that fall under condo management. So I think basically the landlord passes on like these responsibilities to the building management, and everything like you have to go through the building management. So these are some of the things that may not be stated in your tenancy agreement, but it's like your guideline or policies by your building management. So I just realized that, and then it's like at some point after, so the signing everything was like by the landlord, right? So after that, then when you actually operate and we actually like you start your renovations and you operate, a lot of things fall under the building management. So I think that my struggle was more with that. Like, and when it comes to building management, like there's limited things that the agent can do, because the agent usually negotiates with the landlord, not really the building management. So unless things escalate like into something serious, then they will step in. But then after that, you kind of have to work with your building management lah. So I think it's helpful to build a good relationship with your building management, and then as well as like you must know what are your rights lah in that sense. So if as a tenant, like you have to know that, okay, there are certain things that like you have the right to ask for, and like some things I think, like even though it's on paper, like there's certain policies or guidelines and all that, but sometimes if you need it for your operations or your business to be able to make it work, I think there is some room for negotiation. So ask nicely ask nicely. So but I think that is the thing that was a bit difficult for me, because I like some things like you don't know until like you operate, and then you realize that, oh, cannot, then the building management people will come down and say, oh, actually you cannot do this. So that's the part that like it's not written in the tenancy agreement. I mean, it's detailed, but it's not detailed to the extent that it covers every single thing, and you wouldn't think of these things until like I just give very simple example, like things that you cannot throw in the bin. Like how will you know what you cannot throw? So just small little things like that you might not know, and then so just talk to the building management lah.
Right. And so for this, like our current COVID-19 situation, right? What do you think is the everybody is saying that when we go back to norm, it will actually not be the norm that we know. It will be like a new norm or kind of stuff. So naturally, a lot of business will be changing or will be evolving. So how does this impact the childcare industry? Or what would be some of the changes that you think might happen? I mean, although we all know that for schools and childcare, it's all like very, very essential. It will still function and operate. But what are probably some of the operations that might change, or things that might change?
I would say while we are still in this COVID-19 situation, definitely we are worried about the programs and the learning of the children. So like for our school, we depend quite a bit on like some of the group group experiences of the children. So like small little things like even not being able to go into like maybe playgrounds or not being able to go for water play or like we have other enrichment programs as well that now that with this situation they can't actually come into the center to provide services. So definitely I think like in terms of the kids learning, although there is still learning, but it's definitely slower. So yeah, and I think when it comes to kids, the online thing, I mean, it does have some benefit, but it's not ideal like for
Mhm.
kids to be learning from the screen. So yeah, so I mean, one good thing is I see from my team is we actually build skills to be able to do this e-learning thing. So we actually have Zoom sessions with the kids. We have things like storytelling. We teach our art and craft, everything online. Yeah,
Right.
so I think the teachers actually, I mean, quite impressive. Like they actually learn like camera skills and all that to do it. So yeah, plus point, I think we can think about how we can do this as a collaborative learning together with our the kids' parents at home. So yeah, so that would be like the plus point from this whole COVID situation. But then I am worried about the kids, like how long is it going to be before they can resume to normal, like they can have their
Mm.
group activities and all that. Because even now, with the school reopening, there are still a lot of measures. Like example, they
Yeah,
have to wear a mask.
staggering.
Yeah, they cannot shower. They have to sit like they can't play together as the same as before. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
so I'm not sure how like even like usually we used to be able to play like maybe 10 kids in one area, but now maybe we have to limit to like 4, 5, 6, that kind. So I'm not sure in the long term whether this will affect their learning or their development. Yeah, and we don't know how long this situation is going to be. So if it's going to be for like at least the next half a year, then definitely a lot of impact for them.
Mm. So you guys have been doing like Zoom trainings and all that, Zoom
Yeah,
teaching.
yeah, we have.
Right.
Uh, yeah, I would say not as extensively because it can be very stressful for the parents, especially if they are still working from home and then having to attend to this. It is quite a commitment, especially like, the parents are already having so, I would say a lot of them are having a lot of screen time for the children. And then you still pull them back to, and it can be very difficult and stressful for the parents. So yeah,
Yeah.
so we do a lot of video recording so that they can kind of OT do it with their kids. Yeah, but
Right.
I think and then we also send like
Pre-recorded.
for pre-recorded, and then we also send like some activities. We like some like worksheets and things for parents who need some more things to do with their kids But I think everyone is just hoping that when school reopens, then the kids actually can start a bit more normal life in the school I think at home it is kind of hard. Even for myself, my daughter like is just playing every day. So like to expect learning, it's quite difficult especially like if both parents are working.
Yeah,
That can
it is.
be. Mm.
Yeah, even for some of our associates, yeah, the first 3 weeks was extremely difficult. I think a lot of people just couldn't get used. Your kids running around, and you have to work at the same time, and then you have to attend their
Yeah,
HBL at the same time. Yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, not an easy period. But I think the good thing is the school holidays was brought forward. So yeah,
Mm.
that's all relief parents a little bit. So like how about technology? Like moving forward, what are your plans for utilizing technology because of this shifting so-called situation?
Mm.
Other than Zoom, like, do
Technology.
you have any other kind of tech in place, like, or plan to have more tech in place?
um Okay, because we are inclusive, right? So some of our kids with additional needs, we actually try out some of the programs that they can actually do home-based learning at home. Yeah,
Mm,
because now like we actually have to stop all our therapy services, everything. So we are looking at there are actually some like apps that you can actually put up like some of the activities that the kids can do with their parents at home. So we are exploring these for our kids with additional needs. Other than that, I would say that this whole like the videos and the Zoom thing, it's actually quite a good opportunity for us to actually bridge with the parents, because usually when we do things in school, right, they don't really know what's going on. But when we
mm,
actually send things back, you realize that the parents actually can see what the teachers are doing and how the teacher conducts things, and they actually get to learn a lot more about the teachers. yeah, so I think that I mean, moving forward, we could look at how to use this as a video bridging with for parents to participate a bit more in what's happening with the children in school. Yeah, and I think like so far a lot of them have been enjoying, like, especially like things like songs, like if you record it, they can actually see the teacher at home, like see a video of the teacher rather than always watching like YouTube. They can watch storytelling, or yeah, so I think it's quite a good bridge lah, like parent school connection.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
also want to know. We also want to know, apart from your business,
Mm.
how do you view properties, like, for your own residential properties, right? What kind of properties do you like?
I
Or have
would
you had time to think about that, or is mainly on your business, or like?
Too busy.
Okay, I would say in terms of for my own because when I was younger, I've stayed in like different kinds of property before lah. So like landed, condo, and then now I'm back to HDB. So yeah, so I would say the appeal of staying like in certain property, if I were to buy for my own lah, I don't think that I really have like a dream home that I want. But then I think in terms of if let's say I were to have some extra money and want to invest in certain things, I think that would be good lah. So I see quite differently lah. So if you purchase for business versus you purchase as an investment, I mean, I rather like I take my profits and I invest rather than I buy something and then I run my business in it. Yeah. So I think something that can look at, but I'm also aware that there's a lot more complications if you are renting to rent. I mean, if you purchase to rent out, that there can be quite a bit more complications lah.
As in being a
So
land,
sorry.
as in being a landlord. Well, just now you mentioned that for your own business, you prefer to rent a place
Yeah.
to run your business, but
Yeah.
on the side, if you have spare funds, you would rather become a landlord yourself, buy something and rent out.
I've
Right.
seen that. I mean, there are benefits to it. Like my parents do purchase like units overseas and then they're renting out. So it's a good passive income. Yeah. So I think that it can be a good way, especially when you get older and then like you are looking at retirement, like how do I build some income while like I'm not working as hard. I think that can be a good avenue lah. It's quite different from like if you were to invest in like stocks or shares or that you kind of have to consistently like monitor and then like buy sell. It's still quite some hard work, but I think in terms of if let's say you can get a good unit, you're renting out monthly, then that will be some good income lah. If yeah.
All right. So have you like what do you like usually focus on? Like is now your main focus for the next 3 to 5 years your business, or like what are your plans?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the business aspect, yes. How do I build my center and of course, be able to run it well? That will be primary lah. But I think the other part of it is I'm working a lot on like my self development as well. So yeah, things like leadership and like communication skills and all that. So yeah, so busy
All
in
right.
the next 2 years.
So do you have like a business mastermind group or something that you gather with entrepreneurs on a regular basis and stuff like that?
Not
Or
not
how do
really.
you get your learning? Not really. All right. Then how do you get your
Yeah.
learning?
Usually like I read up, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, read up. I do have, I mean, there are some groups lah, but then I mean, everybody goes into business with a different intention, right? So, like you kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt lah. Sometimes it does affect you, especially if like you are not the how do I say in English? Like the very
You say in
hungry.
Mandarin, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not the hungry business owner kind of person, it can get very stressful lah, because I think as an entrepreneur, the thing is you are not reporting to a boss. So you kind of like, you are your own gauge of
You're
how
your own.
hard you work in that sense. Yeah. So
Right.
if you you start comparing with what other people are doing and like the way that their business is doing, different feel as well. So if you compare, then you kind of start to get very demoralized and like, yeah. And I always believe like when you are not in the right state of mind when you're running a business, especially when you have like customers or clients, they can feel it, like they can feel that negative vibe, and then yeah, so everything will just go downhill lah. So for me is like I sometimes do connect, but take it with a pinch of salt lah, in that sense. Yeah, I think quite fortunately also for my business, I would say that in terms of like networking, it's not as like it's not as critical compared to if let's say you were to be in maybe like finance or like yourself in property. I would say it's a lot more important that you know people. But I
Right.
think for like this kind of like brick and mortar kind of shop, we are working more on like, okay, how do I build my reputation? How do I build my clientele rather than like, or let me know other business owners. So I think there's benefits to knowing, like you kind of like can learn from like experiences and all that. But yeah, take it with a pinch of salt. Not everything applies.
Right. So based on your own opinion, what do you think are some of the businesses that will change because of the COVID-19?
Mm, Actually, I'm quite worried for some of the businesses. So the ones that I know directly affected, probably, I mean, I thought in education industry, I think I'm quite concerned for the enrichment, enrichment centers. Yeah, it's like they are closed until like you don't know when, and yeah. So I think in terms of when they can actually operate, and especially for young kids, I think like parents don't really want to pay for e-learning. Like to them is, oh, I have YouTube, I have other resources, and why should I continue paying for that? So it's like you don't know when you'll earn money ever again. So I'm quite worried that they will close down. The other ones, I guess, like I have friends in maybe like wedding event planning industries, things like the photography, videography, all
Right.
this. I think that yeah, like can be quite stressful lah for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there is uncertainty involved because of the way things are going, and
Mm.
yeah, and we at this point now we still don't know when is phase 2 coming, and phase
How
3
about
as well.
yourself? Are you guys like very affected by the closure?
Yeah, so for us, before the circuit breaker, what we have been doing is that all our content are mainly on social media online.
Mm,
So like our home tours and our virtual tours and like our 3Ds and stuff like that. So
mm,
it's already in place. So I would say that in that sense, it helped any potential buyers to view our properties in a
mm.
much easier fashion, right?
Ah,
But of course, that depends. That depends because for whether the property is a resale or new property itself, resale property people still prefer to have at least a physical look because this is a
mm.
huge purchase. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of buyers are like pent up now. They're waiting for the circuit breaker to be released, and at this
Mm,
point in time, real estate still fall into the segment whereby no physical viewings is allowed. So we're still very
mm,
virtual. Yeah, so I think the
mm.
most search after keyword in the past 2 months is virtual viewings for real estate industry. Right. So yeah, so everybody is doing virtual viewings. It's like, on
Ah,
weekends our guys are like conducting virtual tours on virtual platforms, right? So
ah,
showing, I mean, we're doing a lot of Zooms and then buyers coming on board. And then we'll show them the house based on the floor plan, based on the virtual tours and stuff. Then even sellers,
mm,
we're also meeting them virtually. So I'll say that is everything is virtual now until we are certain that the authority says that physical viewings are allowed. Yeah, so that's
mm,
that's what's happening now. Yeah, so I think probably the challenge for real estate industry is that especially for resale market,
mm,
most buyers at this point, I think, although some buyers do buy properties virtually without seeing them physically, but probably the numbers are not very high, and a
mm.
lot of people probably in the Asian culture they still want to at least have a physical look, and so
Yeah.
um, our sense is that after the circuit breaker is lifted for the real estate industry, I think there will be a couple of months of a pen up because a lot of
Mm,
a lot of buyers they are actually waiting for that to be released because they have sold their place before the circuit breaker. So
Mm.
they're waiting for this to be released, and then they want to come back and buy their replacement homes. Yeah,
Mm.
so that's basically what the backdrop of what's happening now.
Mm. I think quite fortunately you all had this social media in place. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
I can imagine people who might not have this platform. I do know like estate agent friends. I think their life is like a bit of a standstill now because they can't actually. Yeah, so I think quite fortunately.
yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah, but I think everything is changing. Like it's like instantly for the past 2 months, everybody now becomes experts in Zoom and stuff like that, right? So I think we all need to adapt and embrace change. Yeah. So,
mm,
George, do you have any other questions for Pei Ling? You know,
So yeah,
understand.
maybe just one more because I think just now Penny was mentioning that she rather for her own business she would rather rent instead of like buying. So
mm.
I think I do see like certain like preschool they do own a landed property. I don't know whether they own it. So like what's your thoughts like? What would you say that you rather rent it? Is it because of the cost or stuff
Mm.
like that? You can share with us a bit more.
I think one thing is okay, firstly, assuming that you have the amount to rent lah, and to rent a place like the size of my unit, we are
Yeah.
easily talking about millions lah. Yeah, so
Mhm.
I think that but the other thing is if I'm just looking at running a business, basically your profit is revenue minus your expense, right? So
Yeah.
if I rent, it's just looking at simply as okay, this is part of my expense. So if I make more than my expense, I earn money. Yeah. So
Mm.
if you buy, you have a lot more complications. Like you are actually earning money to pay back to the building.
To
And
the
I think
mortgage.
yeah, and the other thing is I'm not sure if this is normal for most industrial units, but for I'm aware that my this particular unit is actually on a 30-year leasehold. So
Mm,
it's yeah, so like after 30 years what happens? So like I
mm,
won't go and put my money in this something that like for 30
Mm.
years, right? And then yeah, and I think also it depends like when you purchase a property, you actually look at location as well. And
right.
usually industrial units are places that like I think in terms of value it's not that high lah. So it just doesn't really make sense lah to be buying a industrial unit just to run your business. I think it's quite hard to recover the amount, and by the time you recover then like what happens to that, as if like it's in a prime location and then like someone wants my area very badly and they want to so I think it doesn't really make sense lah to buy for
Right.
business. And yeah, unless I mean if let's say I'm renting in prime location like Sentosa or something maybe, and if I have the money I might buy, and then if let's say next time I can convert it into something, right? So yeah, so I think it depends lah. On location is
Mm,
one thing, and then the other thing will be whether or not you can profit from the business lah. So because if you are renting and you are loaning money, you're also paying off interest. So
Mm.
like you're paying for so many things. Like I don't even know whether you can make money at the end of the day.
Mm.
right. I
So
think I think for
50-50 will
your business setup as well, there are a lot of regulations and
Yeah.
licensing and URA
Mm,
and stuff like that. So I think
yeah.
that adds to the complication. Plus, I think probably a lot of childcares they also want flexibility. Like if
Mm,
you need to
to move out.
expand, yeah, you can
Yeah.
change to a bigger place or you can move to a different
Correct.
location. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So maybe one final question before before we let you go. Right. Yeah. This is something that I thought about. Is like we want to know, like, for business owners,
Mm,
if let's say money is no object to you, if money
mm.
is no object to you, right? What will you do? What will you be doing like for the probably the next 10 years?
Mm, frankly speaking, I won't run a brick and mortar business.
Okay.
I think and with this COVID situation, you kind of realize that not everything has to like I would say that brick and mortar is one of the unless you have very very deep passion, I would say it's quite a risky thing lah, especially so because you have your overheads, you have your rent and everything. So I mean if I have a lot of money and I can afford, I will probably take the money and invest in something, and then I probably will take my passion to doing something else, because I mean, for the amount of effort and stress and everything with running such a business, and yeah, it can get to you lah. If money is not a concern, probably I mean, to earn money, I probably will invest in something instead.
All right.
Yeah, and I think this COVID situation has just shown us that, yeah, without this, like when things are not predictable and you run a brick and mortar shop, then it's really like there's so many things that you can just lose overnight. Like even, yeah, so it's, yeah, I would probably have something less risky in that sense, and then something that like you can kind of like do what you like, but then maybe in a more like not so um so risky way, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even if like doing like what you guys are doing, like educating online and all that. Yeah, maybe next time. Maybe.
All right. So the second last question is that if time were if you had all the time in the world, yeah. So the first question is about money, because we are always thinking about money to do certain things, to expand or to run certain kind of business or follow your passion and stuff. How about time? Like if you had all the time in the world, what would you be doing differently? I mean, from now.
All the time in the world and still have the money, right?
Yeah, let's say you're forever your age, lah. You're forever your age right now.
I think, okay, if you are running a business, right, I think one very wise thing is to be able to kind of delegate the things that people can do. Yeah, I think time is money lah. So, and there are a lot of moments that you cannot buy back. So probably if I have time and I had money, I would train people to be able to do the things that I do. And then maybe like if really it's very, very critical, then I will step in. And then probably I'll spend more time with family, with friends, and yeah, I think for the past 2 years I haven't really spent much time with them. Yeah, so I mean it kind of is no choice, especially like when like things are just running and running, and then you kind of have time like deadlines to meet and all that. So I guess, yeah, if I had the time, I would train people to do lah, so that
Yeah.
I don't have to do everything by myself.
Right. The common struggles of a business owner. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
small business owner.
all right. It's great. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming online with us today on a
Thanks for
Saturday.
having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's really great to hear from a point of view, as a business owner, as a tenant of an industrial space, and setting up a business 2 years back, and a young entrepreneur as well. So it's really great to hear from your perspective, and I believe you have created a lot of value for our audience, right? Is there any final thing that you want to say? And by the way, your center is at Gambas area, right? Is that
Yes.
Woodlands and Sembawang area,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yes.
So for everyone who wants to know a little bit more about SAIL Playhouse, you can visit their website, sailplayhouse.com, and get in touch with Pei Lin and her team. And they're running their playhouse in an inclusive model, whereby kids with special needs and normal school going kids are all in the same learning zone. Yeah, and I think it's a great initiative by our government since 2017, right? So if you want to know a little bit more, visit their website. And thanks, Pei Lin. Thank you for
Thank
coming on stream with
you.
us. Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, you too.
Okay,
Okay.
bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.